Things are getting serious now. I've been looking for an excuse to use this wood for a long time. That is simply far too pretty for its own good. Okay, I think we're there. Is 42 you?
They only have one steak slice, so the others are chicken and bacon.
Oh, chicken and bacon will do.
That seemed acceptable.
It's acceptable. You are a genius and a wonderful man. I completely forgot to bring my lunch today. And considering I spent about half an hour or so, yeah, that's the only failing I'm going to be doing today. You meanie pigs. Yeah, I spent half an hour or so cooking it last night. Already, yeah, I'll have lots of food. It's all good. Look at that wood. Christopher, have you seen?
Oh, wow. That's going to look nice under a lacquered finish.
I don't have time for a lacquered finish.
Do you have some template issues?
No, I tried to use a smaller cutter just running off the wall of the cutter. It's a little bit of tidying up to do. It seems we don't have, or at least I couldn't find any nicely sharp 1/4-inch cutters. We'll see.
What did you do?
I blame the CNC department. Okay, so let's just check that one last time. That's roughly in the correct place. Fretboard straight on. And it's not touching the bridge. You add a mil for the frets and a mil for the strings, and we've got more than enough space there. So that's ideal. So we have some chip out throughout here. And I'm going to do some basic carving on the back as well. I think so. Alright. Well, let's see where we're at. For one thing, my phone is currently on flight mode and I am having withdrawal issues. How's that? 2:59. So we are we're about a third of the way in. Or in fact, we pretty much are a third of the way in. Okay, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, have something to eat, and then we're going to do some carving, which is the bit that you fast forward through. We'll see. Fun times. Okay. Lunch. We good? You coming? We're okay. Hi. Can you tell the difference to me when I've gotten some food in me? 3 hours and 10 minutes nearly into it. This is, yeah. This is fun. Still unsure. I should have been thinking about that rather than anything else. Dust mask. Guitar. Guitar. Let's do it. You're going to need a dust mask. Sam, could you find a dust mask for Talita? Please.
This is where it makes sense to tidy up as you go, not when you get back to the workstation and need to use it again. This is a recurring theme of this series, to be honest. Now, using the template, I drew the position of the backplates in place, and that is simply to help me line it up quicker when I'm using the masking tape and superglue trick to affix the template. But what I'm doing now is again using the masking tape and superglue trick to semi-permanently, or at least with some strength, attach this lump of offcut to the base of the guitar, which will help me carve it. It'll basically, instead of putting clamps on each corner and then only being able to carve half of the instrument, I put it in the end vise and I can carve all the way around. Always make sure the extraction is on. Both air filters. At Crimson Guitars, we're in the process of building carving booths with extraction built in, etc. But that is, it's in progress. Dust inhalation is no joke. in the process of moving the carving station, and well, everything's in flux, which doesn't necessarily help when you're trying to do things quickly. The holes in the disc mean that you can actually see through it, and it also, in my mind, gives me a more slightly smoother cut, which is a bit strange. You would think that it's the other way around. In this case, I'm using the medium grit as well to cut a little bit faster. I would generally use the finer yellow disc. Mark out where I definitely don't want to cut, and we're away. Earlier on in the build I marked along the side where I want the edge to be.
You might want to go around the other side.
And let the dust fly. If you're doing this at home, I would seriously suggest do it outside. Wear all the protection you can. Thinking about this, I should actually be wearing fully enclosed goggles, just to be extra safe. I've used the flap discs for years, and they are finer and slower, but they also tend to throw off chunks of zirconium, and yeah, there are times where I've had that in my eyes, and even while wearing goggles, and that's not fun. That was when you had an F clamp holding the top of the guitar down, and the zirconium would bounce off the clamp and then at an angle into your eyeball. Fun times. So what I'm doing here is carving around and down to the line that we drew earlier. And once I've done that, then I will basically not really approach that line at all, if I can help it. Now, I've done other videos. There was a tutorial video or series maybe where I carved a Les Paul style carve such as this by hand with chisels and gouges and violin maker's thumb planes. And yes, that is a lot less messy, a lot more personal, shall we say, than an angle grinder. But it tends to take a lot longer. I work from the centre out now. I will carve in the rough shape I want and then even it out around the bout there. You'll notice that I've moved the handle. I used to have the handle on the side of the angle grinder, and that still feels more comfortable to me. However, it's not quite as safe. And yeah, So the handle's now poking out the top. It's taking a little bit of getting used to, but it does mean that I'm standing even more directly above the tool than I used to. You can also see that clamp tied around the angle grinder there. That's to remind people who aren't quite so used to using it not to move their hand any closer to the blade. It's impossible to have a guard while using this. So, yeah, you just have to be intelligent, basically. Or not forget what you're doing, really. The end result that I'm after has a slight recurve going towards the edge, but I work towards this in stages. So you have the carve, make sure that it is even around the whole body, and you'll see I spend a lot of time stroking the instrument at this stage, and then using the edge of the cutter like this, you build in a slight recurve. The plan with this guitar is to have no pickup surrounds at all, which means that I can carve closer to the pickup cavities than I would otherwise, at least in a 3D shape. When you are planning on having pickup surrounds, you need to keep the shaping around the cavities a lot more uniform from corner to corner, as pickup surrounds on a screwed down to a 3D surface don't necessarily look very good. At this stage I'm taking much more away from the recurve. So we started with something that was symmetrical, and now we're going for the final shape. This is actually surprisingly straightforward. Once you've done this a few times, using a saber-tooth cutter or a flap disc, it does become second nature, really. It's amazing how accurate you can get. And onto the Mercaderos. This is probably the most expensive hand tool I've ever bought. This is pretty much the most expensive hand tool I've ever bought in my life, by some considerable margin. But it is also pretty much my favourite electrified hand tool, at least. Yeah, absolutely amazing. So in this case we've got 60 grit or probably 80 grit paper, and it is acting as a carver as well. Here you see why I'm wearing a dust mask. Bring on the downdraft table is all I can say right now. So this is evening out any roughness in the carve left by the saber-tooth cutters and my angle grinder. And we're going to end up with basically the final shaped guitar. If you watched the 12-hour guitar build challenge, you would have seen I basically spent, well, it felt like several hours just sanding that guitar. And I'm being a little bit faster this time round. It's like rock climbing. I've got my thumb on the machine there. When you're climbing a wall, not that I have any experience of that, it's a 3-point contact. You're always holding on with 3 of your 4 limbs, and I'm holding the tool as much as I possibly can. And at times I'll hold the guitar and the tool with one hand and use that so that I know exactly where it's going at any time. And this also becomes second nature. I have the same technique when I'm using a file or a rasp. I'll have as many fingers as possible on the tool so that it is completely predictable. Stretch.
See you soon, yeah? Cool.
It never stops at Crimson Guitars. Unfortunately, I spooged a little bit of superglue. Not ideal.
Yeah, fail. Fail!
But I do happen to have a sander in hand, so that's not too bad. Dust on the lens. Hello, Sean. So you can see the tear out. Again, I could probably have saved time if I'd put this body blank through the fantastic felder planer thicknesser that we now have. But, well, I'm after realism and truth and justice and carving. There we go. So, mark out the back cavities and on to the pillar drill, I assume. I don't know what I'm going to do next. No, not onto the pillar drill. Let's cut out some backplates. The last thing I want to do is get my microphone lead caught in a machine. I can't get over how beautiful this wood is. Even now. Yes, we truly are supremely lucky to be doing what we're doing right now. I've cut as close to the lines as I can. With these I'm going to be hand shaping the inside joint and then probably using a spindle sander to shape the outside to match the guitar body. Looking a bit dusty now. Not entirely sure why that piece of MDF is there. I'm assuming as a depth stop for the tool makers. But for me, it's in the wrong place. Record Power, fantastic tools. The budget range, less so. The budget range tends to be made abroad to a price. But the stuff they make in the UK or have made at a higher range are generally phenomenal, and their customer service is second to none, in my experience. So, forced a bit in. I'm struggling with level because I haven't taken the MDF out yet. Always check the depth stop. The last thing you want to do is ever drill through where you don't want to drill through. And as was the case with the pickup cavities, I'm just removing as much waste as possible with the Forstner bit to make the final routing easier. This is one of my favourite parts of the job, actually. In not very much time, the cavities are excavated and routed, and suddenly you have something looking much closer to an actual guitar than you had before. Of course, with this model, this is normally all done with CNC machines, and there's no handwork involved, which is almost sad, but it does mean that we're able to produce a PAF model or the descendant model at better than half the price we would normally be able to if it was being made by hand. So the price of progress. I suppose the big argument between custom guitars or master-built guitars and production guitars is just how much you can actually end up charging for it, or how little you can get away with charging for it, really. That does look dangerous, doesn't it? I'm making sure that the Forstner bit is well out of my way before I push the dust off. The question is, how many of you are resisting the urge to blow the dust and shavings off the screen right now? I know I'm struggling. There's the wedge. Normally I would prefer to do this sort of job when the body blank is still in the flat. It does mean, however, that you have more carving to do later, after you've carved the top. In this case I can use the Forstner bit. Ooh, that slipped there. In this case I can use the Forstner bit to get much closer to my final carve and final depth, because I know exactly where the final carve is. And once again, with the masking tape and superglue trick. I'm sure when I first filmed the video describing this process, the people thought it was, to a certain extent, hyperbole and Ben just getting excited about something again. And I do get excited about things quite a lot. But seriously, this is just great. Mark the edges of the template where the tape is, so that the other tape that is put onto the template can be lined up properly. I don't want to superglue the template down this time. That's our new superglue. At Crimson we've been trying to get into the ancillaries that we use. It's all well and good making and selling tools, but well, the amount of superglue that we use, it made sense to find our favourite brand and have it made specifically for us, with the characteristics that we require. That was a bit silly. Trying to change the router cutter while it's sitting up that way. You don't have any purchase. And it makes one look slightly foolish. Come on, what are you looking for? Preferably a radium router cutter. In this case, one of their 3-flute plungers would be best. There we go. Radian are a fantastic small UK company, and they've been developing a lot of their tools while talking to us or watching the videos to see what we require the most. And up to this point, they've prototyped and built and put into production pretty much everything we've suggested. Lost in thought. That's the deeper 3-flute radian cutter on the table at the moment. Extraction, most incredibly important. taking the smallest cuts possible. You don't want to work the router cutter too hard, or run the risk of chipping out. It is at this stage that you could literally rip out half of the side of your guitar, and that would be ever so slightly catastrophic. That chunk of wood there is one of the central pillars, as it were, left over from the Forstner bit, and yeah, gets in the way. When you don't have a ruler, any bit of wood will do. Normally, of course, I would just go and get a ruler, but hey, we're in a rush. I should have just fixed the depth stop on this router. But hey, that's hindsight for you. Now this might seem a little bit like overkill, the size of these cavities at least. It's a fairly standard, it is our standard design for the PAF, and while in this particular case it's only going to have a three-way toggle up about there, and a volume and a tone in the main cavity, it does mean that we can customize in the custom shop and add quite a few more controls. Now that there is my makeshift depth stop. Tells me where I went to on the main cavity and should speed up the process on this up about. At this point, I'm starting to feel the time get away with me a little bit. Where nearly 4 hours into a 9-hour build. And, yeah. And there we have it. Now, on a normal guitar at this stage, we would put another template on and route a full cavity for the backplates. My design calls for a backplate that goes over the edge. I also, at this stage, realised that the superglue and masking tape trick is a little bit too strong for me in this case. Again. I suppose it is better to have some difficulty in taking the template off when you consider the alternative of losing the template while routing, which is just terrifying. You missed. So, preparation time. The next template, the penultimate template, or not. Let's route a neck pocket. There's a much smaller area to affix the template to the body because of the carve. But if I had routed the neck pocket while the body was flat and uncarved, then the back of the neck pocket would have been at the wrong angle. As it stands, if I route it now, the neck can have a square, or at least could be cut at a 90-degree angle. You don't need to build in anything there. So, after having thought about it a little bit, I realised that what I would rather do is finish the routing the back plates before I do the neck pocket. Mainly because I want to make sure I've got the neck absolutely right. But the router table is currently being used by somebody else. So I'm going to get on the spindle sander and do the sides. This is one of our tool makers working on a quilted sapele tool handle of awesomeness. Now this is the fantastic jet oscillating spindle sander with an equally fantastic Carroll sander bobbin, and Unfortunately, these bobbins are no longer made. Very, very unfortunately. I have spent many hours trying to find anybody who has them for sale nowadays. And I sincerely regret not buying more when I had the chance. Perhaps Crimson Guitars can start making them at some point. Next year. Or the year after. We've got so much on our plate right now. The nice things about these bobbins is, as you saw, you don't have to use pre-made tubes of sandpaper. You buy a roll and fit it and go from there. Thank you for watching.